Hey, David Brewster here, new episode of Chordplay. This is the Chords of Uli Jon Roth, and I've had some requests to feature more of this legendary, neoclassical metal and rock pioneer. Definitely a great guitarist. I've been an Uli Jon Roth fan for a long time, and I've featured him multiple times on the channel here. There's Soloing Secrets, there's 3 for All episodes looking at some of his licks, but this is the first time we've really looked at his chord work. And there's a lot. We're going to look at Scorpions and some of his Electric Sun and solo projects. But definitely, Uli's been on the scene since around 1968, a former member of the band Scorpions. His solo project, Electric Sun, also, solo projects under his own name. Well, with Scorpions, there's 4 studio albums, 1 live album, 3 Electric Sun solo albums, 5 solo albums under his own name, 2 compilations, and 3 live albums. Definitely, Uli Jon Roth is a legend. And in recent years, Uli's definitely gained more attention and notoriety. A lot of people have definitely just outpoured, their support and inspiration for his music. And, even though he's not really a household name in every household, he's definitely a household name in my household, but most people on the street may not really even know him or his music or his legacy. And it's really interesting because there are so many guitarists that were directly influenced by Uli's music. Yngwie Malmsteen, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Marty Friedman. There's a whole bunch of people. But here's an image with some of those, guitarists that definitely have a direct connection or influence to Uli Jon Roth's music. So the music and chord-based examples in this episode came from 5 Uli Jon Roth-related albums. That includes 3 albums from the Scorpions, the original Electric Sun album, also the album Firewind, the second Electric Sun album. There's different tunings. I'm going to be switching guitars. There's actually a nylon string, example later in this episode. So you're going to definitely notice I'm changing guitars and kind of changing things around. When I'm using the Paul Reed Smith, this is going to be tuned down a half step, the Strats in standard, and my nylon strings tuned down a half step. And there's one example in standard drop D tuning too. Just a heads up. But here we go. Alright, with the opening, that's the song Yellow Raven from the album Virgin Killer by Scorpions. And I love when Uli does this dreamy kind of Hendrix stuff, like this. And dreamy and kind of slow, but I really like this. And it starts with this kind of R&B, right? So basically think A minor, right? And then we're doing this, kind of R&B, definitely Hendrix inspired, hammer-ons there. And I like how he's moving, the hammer-on from the A string to the G string to the D string. So he's doing, quite a few of those. Like that. And then just A minor right there. Hammer on pull off between that E and G. And then, so after that hammer on pull off, grab that C to A and then a hammer on C to D, G to A, like that. Right? So after the A minor business, to F major right there. And right there you're going to hammer on that D note and then return to that A on the G string. And then it's D minor, like a D sus2 to D minor. And then you're kind of playing with that D minor and the D sus2, opening up that high E. And then go to E major right there, like a partial E major. And you got this little slide. So like that G sharp to A, the open B, and then that A to B, and then the high E to B string open. And then back to A minor again. And he kind of runs through all that again. He changes the hammer on pull off to this A and C the second time. much the same there. Back to F. D minor and that sus2. And then E major again. So it's not really hard to play. It just sounds really cool. It's dreamlike and kind of slow and really cool. Next up's the opening to the song I've Got to Be Free from the album Taken by Force by Scorpions, and this is really cool, like this. You know, something like that. So we're basically banging out this A minor 7 like that. And you definitely hear Uli do a lot of this kind of quick, like double stop, kind of strummy stuff. Kind of Hendrixy, but it's kind of his own thing too. And that A minor 7's just that. Right, just bar the 5th fret on the D to the B string, and then you're banging that open A. And then that's just really like a double stop there, 12 to 14. And then back to that A minor 7. You're gonna bang on that, and then the open D, D sharp to E, and then grab that G. And go right back to that A minor 7 riff. And the last time you're gonna do like a bend on that double stop on the 7th fret. And then walk down. You're kind of coming down to that G. And I love those hard-hitting riffs like that. Really cool. Next up's the opening to I'll Be Loving You Always from the album Firewind. This is the second Electric Sun album. Definitely has this Hendrixy kind of vibe to it. Like that. So he's starting with those double stop kind of R&B fills like that. So right there you're on the 4th fret, you're hammering on that F sharp to G sharp, and then you're going to do a quick hammer on right there, that C sharp to D. So right there, and right there after you do that, that's going to feel like a C sharp power chord with the low E open, the B, and the high E open too. That's going to function like a C sharp minor over E. You could think of it that way. Real spacey and dreamy. Like that. And then he starts doing this. So he's kind of reinstating that chord. Starts doing power chords here, this B to C sharp, a quick shift to that D sharp back to C sharp, and then back to B. So it's real quick. And then you're doing this F sharp to G sharp, right? And then it's a little part of F sharp major to G sharp minor, like that. And then you hear like G sharp minor like that. And then you hear him basically start shifting and sliding and changing the chord. And this is actually something that pops up a lot in Uli's music, because he's going from G sharp minor to F sharp major. And it's almost like a little magic trick, because your middle finger is just going to pop on and off depending on if you need, you know, major or minor like that. So right there, it's really kind of tricky because he's doing G sharp minor, F sharp major, and then he kind of moves back and forth between those two. After you do that shift back and forth, then it's going to go from G sharp minor to B major, like right? And when you get to that B major, then you're going to move to C sharp minor after that. So it's really interesting because you have two minor chords and two major chords, and the way he's shifting and kind of doing that magic trick, you know, switching from one to the other, is really cool. Part, and that's kind of deceptively hard to do, but definitely worth it. I love those little magic trick chord shifts. Really cool. Here's kind of a quick example from the song Earthquake, and I definitely have featured Earthquake in 3 for All episodes and the Soloing Secrets episode too, but now it's kind of a chord turn. And this is really interesting. You hear it, I mean, Earthquake's like over 10 minutes long. This happens somewhere around like 3 or 4 minutes into the song, something like this. Something like that. And right there, that's the chord, obviously, I wanted to get to. So that's an F major 7 sharp 11, like that. Think of an F, you know, major bar chord, but then open up the B and the high E string. So an F major 7 sharp 11. And then he starts doing this, like, kind of single note melody. And then right back to that F major 7 sharp 11. Eventually, there's another melody here on the G string, like that. And that's one thing you'll notice about Uli's music is he throws chords out, but then he almost always dips into a melodic, like single note melody or a lick or something. Really cool stuff, and I love that chord. Okay, next up's the opening of the song Winterdays. This is from the album Earthquake, and this is really interesting. So I'm in just regular drop D tuning. I realize I'm using the Paul Reed Smith, which was tuned down a half step earlier. Now it's tuned in standard and then just regular drop D. And it's basically an arpeggiated kind of flowing melodic part based around chords like this. Something like that. So it's implied chords here. We're kind of playing with D minor and a D minor flat 6, right? And I've seen some different ways of playing this. You could play it without that big stretch like this. But I don't think that's what he's doing. It doesn't sound right when you play it like that, because I'm hearing a hammer-on and a pull-off between that F and A. And you can't do that when you're doing it this way because it's on two different strings down here. So that led me to believe that this is the way he's playing it. Drop D, you're going to play that, the drop D note, the low E tuned to D, let that ring, and then you've got... like that. Then it moves over like a G minor 6. Like that. So tasty, so cool. And then back to the D minor flat 6. Really cool. Okay, next up's the song Far Away. This is from the Scorpions album Fly to the Rainbow. And there's something interesting happening here. I think it's actually 2 guitars, but I did figure out a way to do it all on 1 guitar. It's really stretchy on 1 guitar, but you can do it. So the first guitar, I believe, is just doing this. Is basically like a B over D sharp, like that. And that's going to be A over C sharp there. That's like a G sharp minor over B. And that's F sharp minor over A. But the stretchy part is on that first chord, you hear this G and F sharp way up on top. over C sharp, you hear this F sharp and that E. And then on this G sharp minor over B, you're going to hear this that D sharp and that C sharp right there. And then on that F sharp over A, now we're grabbing C sharp and B. So I don't think that's actually how it was played on one guitar, but you can kind of fake it on two guitars, even though there's a big giant pinky stretch right there. But that's really cool when you can kind of combine all that on one guitar. You know, pretty cool stuff. Okay, last but not least is the song They Need a Million. This is also from the Scorpions album Fly to the Rainbow. I'm using my nylon string guitar and it's tuned down a half step. Just a heads up. Definitely a classically influenced guitar part right here. Something like this. Something like that. So we're basically starting with this A minor add 9. So he's doing like the A and then G, B, G, and then the high E, G, B, G, and then you're hitting that A note that's on the D string and then G, B, G. So depending on what note you're starting with, you keep going back to that G, B, G kind of pattern like this. And then start on that D string and do it again. That. Right? Then you're going to move to this. That's going to be an implied G6, and you're kind of doing that same pattern. But then you're going to basically add this E note, and then also reach up and grab that B at the end. And that's still G6 implied. And then it's F major 7 right here. And then that's like an F major 13, and you're reaching up and grabbing that A eventually. And then it's E major like that. And then F major 7 right there. Back to E major. Then he starts doing these quick, like, descending rolls. Like that. And he goes right back to A minor again. Alright, that's going to wrap this episode of Chordplay with this look at the chords of Uli Jon Roth. Definitely a very important and influential and impactful guitarist. I mean, definitely when he really started to hit, some new ideas and things, when he was working with Scorpions, everybody paid attention. And it's really interesting, like those early albums that featured him, on the Scorpions releases. I mean, he was still Uli, but somewhere around Virgin Killer, he really exploded. I don't know if he just started really practicing and woodshedding and diving into classical and really building this technique or what. But you can hear it, like if you compare like In Trance and some of the earlier stuff to Virgin Killer, you can definitely hear Uli just really spring to life. And then of course Taken by Force and the Tokyo tapes and some of those albums. I mean, by then, Uli was just shredding and jamming. And I think he may have even confused the members of Scorpions, like, wow, Uli is just amazing over here. And then, of course, he left the group and became a solo artist, an Electric Sun, and his own releases, too. But there's something about that, really noticing, like, this just explosion of ability and technique and everything in his music. Really inspiring, really cool, very historic, and very important, too. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know it with more content and material. Thank you.